Am I the a-hole stories? Am I the a-hole for not telling my father that my sister had a child? When I was 15, my parents separated. My father was having an affair, and my mother asked him to move out while they attempted to reconcile. They didn't. My father continued his relationship with the other woman, and my parents' separation quickly led to divorce. My older sister was devastated. My father and the other woman eventually married. My dad's wife has kids from a previous marriage as well, and over the years my sister and I have attempted to reach out and connect with my dad's new family with mixed success. Over more than the last decade, my sister and my dad have both been okay with each other, but also have had some falling outs. My dad in the meantime has become deeply connected to his second wife's family, including her children and grandchildren. My sister and I have been able to stay somewhat connected to this new family unit over the years, but neither of us has really been able to have a one-on-one relationship with our father. Early in 2019, my sister and my father had a significant falling out, and have not been on speaking terms with each other until last week. During this more than year-long period of little to no communication between them, my sister became pregnant and had a child. My sister asked me not to disclose this to my dad, because she wanted him to reach out to rebuild his relationship specifically with her, rather than be motivated by the prospect of being a grandparent to her child. Last week my sister revealed the news of her child to my father. She wants to meet with him specifically and start to talk things through, but with just him, not his wife. My dad and his wife are very protective of being seen as a unit, I think because of the hurt that their relationship inflicted when it began. My father sees my sister as being manipulative and holding his grandchild hostage. In his shock and hurt, my dad has found me to blame as well. He considers my withholding news of my sister's motherhood to be lying by omission. Which I guess technically it is, but I genuinely believe that the news belonged to my sister, and was not my truth to tell. Over the last year and a half when my dad and sister were not speaking, I had asked him several times to reach out to her, for him to see a family counselor together with her, and concede to working one-on-one with my sister on their relationship, without my dad's wife having to be ever present. He didn't pursue these options despite my encouragement. My father and his wife have said that I have hurt them by lying, and that my integrity is damaged. I believe that he does not have an inherent right to access a grandchild, and that while I have sympathy for how hurt he is, I feel he is unwilling to accept his own culpability in this situation, and is missing out on this important milestone in his daughter's life because of his own stubbornness. Or am I the a-hole for not telling him about my sister's child? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Let me get this straight. He's mad at her, and you, for lying, yet he had a whole side piece while married to your mom? Yeah. That makes a whole lot of sense, cue rolling of eyes. And the other woman, which she will always be, is inserting herself into your family's business and he supports this. Nope. That choice was your sister's alone. And I wouldn't lose a wink of sleep over it. Fallout after fallout would be cause for me to cut contact if this was my situation, especially how the father blames everyone around him. He is so hypocritical, lies and cheated, and he was once to hold everyone else to higher standard of truth. That is rich. And becomes a better father to his stepchildren, not faulting the stepchildren, but his behavior of discarding one family tie, the sisters and the mom, for another family is disgusting. I understand people will live their lives after a divorce, but it sounds like the father made minimal attempt to involve his children from the previous marriage into his family unit. I hope the sister realizes that her child would be better off not knowing the grandfather than experience the same favoritism and neglect that OP and the sister felt. Laughing my butt off. The man who cheated on your mom talking about your integrity, tell him to get a grip and rethink his priorities if he wants his children and grandchildren there for him on his deathbed. Not the a-hole, of course. My dad and his wife are very protective of being seen as a unit. Extra rich after he obviously gave a crap about OP's mother's and his kids' feelings in the first place. Not the a-hole, you said it yourself, it wasn't your information to share, especially when your sister explicitly asked you not to. Your sister's instinct was right. If you had told about the child, he only would have tried to reconcile because of the new grandchild. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my friend that she is no longer allowed at my home due to her weird obsession with her kid impressing my husband? I will try to be short. Friend moved back to the States 4 months ago. We start hanging out all the time. At first there was no weird behavior, but that quickly switched to her pushing her kid, 16 female, off on my husband, 36, when it comes to literally everything. Such as my husband is an introvert and doesn't talk much. My friend's way of combating this was to have her 16-year-old daughter corner him to interact one-on-one, claiming that my husband just needed to feel young and accepted again. Anyways, the last several times she has come for a visit she has insisted on bringing her daughter. Immediately after arriving she will say, "Baby, go check on John," or, "Hey love, go show John the song you wrote," or, "Honey, move over a seat. You guys are so far apart." That last comment was made when my husband was sitting at the island and her daughter was sitting with a seat between the two of them. She is also always saying things like, "John, doesn't she have beautiful eyes?" She doesn't believe me. All while fondling her kid's hair and looking at my husband. It's freaking weird. My husband actually started leaving the house whenever he knew she was coming over. What did she do when he started leaving, you ask? She stopped telling me when she was coming over in an attempt to catch him before he leaves. Anyways, I was fed up. My comments to her about it were going in one ear and out the other. So she shows up this morning. Hubby was in the shower. Immediately she said, "Sweetie, go find John and see why he's not out here to greet us." Rude. Sarah instantly starts walking to my bedroom. I snapped, I admit. I said something to the effect of, "Yeah, no. This has gone too far. I don't know what the hell your intentions are, but pushing your daughter off onto my husband is not only freaking irritating, but weird as all hell. He's freaking 36. You are 16. My husband doesn't want to be around you guys anymore." My friend immediately got defensive, and said that I was the weird one for looking at it like that and that it was obvious my husband just needs a friend who has the same mental capacity as him. Basically calling my husband stupid. So, I told her and her daughter to leave and not come back. Before leaving she said, "If you have to worry about your husband around a child, then maybe you shouldn't be with him. And by the way, my kid is gay." To which her daughter responded, "No, I'm not. Stop telling people that. Am I the a-hole?" Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and also deeply worrisome. Not only is she harassing your husband, I'd be worried she's trying to set up sort of blackmail scheme or legal issue where she claims your husband of having violated her daughter or something. Maybe not. Maybe she's just mistreating her daughter? It's hard to think of any reasonable explanation for her behavior. She certainly is teaching her daughter to be bad about consent, so that's the minimum level, if you give her every benefit of the doubt. And as it's your husband's consent being violated, you should protect him. I wouldn't go as far as to think blackmail. But I agree that the friend is going to extremes if the intent is forcing the husband to socialize more with people. Not the a-hole, and this is very disturbing behavior from your friend. It seems like she is trying to accomplish one of three things, none of which is good. 1. She's hoping that she wants your husband to become a sort of father figure to her, but some of her actions make me think this is not the case. 2. She's hoping that she can make attraction happen between her daughter and your husband so her daughter may end up marrying him. Sort of like training her before she's legal. 3. And most disturbing of all, she's trying to get your husband to find her daughter attractive enough to sleep with, and then get him for underage offense or violation. It's important to note that probably none of this is happening, and your friend is just really that lacking in self-awareness, but I'd put them heavily on your radar. It seems to me the daughter is being used as a tool by her mom. Keep them away from your husband. I'm serious. Protect your husband. This seems like an attempt to destroy him and your family. I don't know why she would be trying to do that, possibly for blackmail purposes or getting money from a lawsuit. I have no clue, but it's very worrisome. If it is to the point that the behavior becomes more stalker-like, I'd get cameras and make a police report, so it's out there that the attention was unwanted. Info: why do you think you could even remotely, possibly, in a million years, be an a-hole for this? Because my mind instantly jumped to this woman using my husband for some sort of weird, actual thing for her daughter. I couldn't include that or it would have been removed. The next story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for saying that I make the rules in the house I inherited from my mother?" Some background info: I, 20 mil, started to live with my bio father and his wife a week ago. My mother died when I was 18, and since this house has been passed down on my mother's family for generation, I legally inherited it. My mom and bio father divorced when I was 15. I was never really close to him. To be clear, if I were to rate our relationship, it will be 3/10. I don't know the reason, but we're just pretty civil to each other. Last year, he married this woman somewhere abroad, and although I was invited, I didn't go because that woman and me are practically strangers. We never talked before and I only know her appearance from a picture. Because of the pandemic, my bio father asked if they can live here for a while, since his pay was recently cut down, so it's hard to keep living in their apartment. Since we have a decent relationship with each other and him saying that they'll agree to any condition I set, I won't dive further in the conditions, just normal roommate stuff, like not meddling with each other's business. I let them in last week. The first few days were actually pretty normal, just some snide comments from his wife when he's not around about my lifestyle, my house, my decorations, my garden, and whatever she thinks is not good enough. I just always answer her with, "It's my life, I'm an adult in my own home. I would appreciate it if you don't voice out your unsolicited opinions." Then yesterday, for whatever reason it is, she just barged into my room, demanded for me to be healthy and bond with them more, then proceeded to take my laptop, which I paid for, and my own separate modem, which I also pay for. Of course I was irritated and irritatingly said, "What the F are you doing?" She replied with, "I'm making you live a healthier life. From now on, I will regulate your use of internet and laptop. I will be in charge under this roof." After hearing that, I can't help but laugh. I just laughed real hard at her face. Like which? This is my house and I provide for myself. I just answered her with, "You high on substance or something? Seems you forgot this is not your house. This is my house. You don't get to make the rules here." "I do. Disturb me once more and I'll make sure you'll live in the streets." My father was livid last night, and he demanded me to apologize to her. Of course I didn't lol. I just reiterated what I said to her. That this is my house and if they problems or whatsoever, they're free to live in the streets. Now some of my cousins are telling me that I shouldn't have used my house that I inherited from mom to shut them up, especially now due to the pandemic. I don't really care about the two of them, but I value my cousin's opinion. Am I the a-hole here? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. They're free to move out if they don't like it. As long as they live under your house, they will abide by your rules. If not, they are both adult, and are more than welcome to find other accommodations. Not the a-hole. I would go so far as to make a chore chart if you want to get extra petty. And make sure you remind everyone constantly, it's your house. See how they enjoy that one. Also do this ASAP so that you don't have to do a legal eviction song and dance, if that's a thing where you live. Not the a-hole. They've broken the agreement, and you have every right to ask them to leave. Your cousins can take them in if they want to. Not the a-hole. Doesn't sound like you use the my house thing often. This is exactly when you should, when she somehow feels like she should be in control. In what world would she be the one making the rules? She sounds painfully entitled. Maybe this is a pride thing for her. You definitely needed to remind her where she lives. This kind of behavior is unacceptable. If your cousins have a problem with it, they can take them in. Plus, you know, if it was her house, she would be more than happy to let you know her house or rules. I wonder if OP's father originally told her it was his house. This is a very strong possibility, I suspect. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for allowing my daughter to use a family asset and not my stepchildren? My partner and I aren't married but have been together for 6 years. He has 2 sons, aged 17 and 15, and I have a 17-year-old daughter. I have sole custody of my child, and he is 70/30ths his. When we were originally going to move in together, my daughter expressed a lot of fear about living with men, so I have always held off while working with her therapist. However, in June, my partner had to come live with me due to a desperate financial situation, and we could no longer maintain separate houses. Her anxiety has gone up, but it is nowhere where it would have been years ago, and we are doing the best we can on that. In addition to my house, I also have an asset that essentially amounts to owning a hotel room in a major city. The actual arrangement would put me well over the word count to explain, but the condensed version is that I used to spend a great deal of time there, and both my daughter and I consider it a second home and a safe space to be away from whatever is bothering us. Anyway, I am able to approve guests to use that room without me, and since she turned 15, I approved my daughter to use it freely for herself. She is also planning to go to college in that city and she is going to be living there next year. My partner knew about the room vaguely, but now his kids have found out. They're now bugging me to give them the same access that my daughter has. I don't want to and never plan to. That room has always been a space for me, and later my daughter, to not deal with men and get away for a bit. This room has been my daughter's literal escape route after an incident on a school trip last year, and will literally be her primary home next year. I feel that any one of these things is reason to keep access at me and her only. Now they, backed by my partner a little bit, are saying that we're a family, and this is a family asset and so should be shared and not just belong to one kid. I don't agree. Quite frankly, I think it's creepy that my partner thinks that teenage boys deserve and are free to demand free access to women's spaces, especially one that is basically a teenage girl's bedroom. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and it's not a family asset. It's your asset and you have reasonably given access to your daughter because of emotional needs and she'll be living there next year. You need to stand your ground on this. Your partner is a jerk for not backing you here and respecting your property and decision. And his kids are wildly entitled and don't respect boundaries. If you do happen to marry this guy, get a prenup, or he's going to take it for his kids and whatever else he feels is now his. Agreed. Not the a-hole. It sounds like your daughter has been traumatized by men, and if she needs a place away, that is completely acceptable. I am normally all about blended families, but in this situation, you made the right call. I thought the same. Poor girl is literally uncomfortable in her own home so she goes to this place. Partner and sons need to get a grip. Info: does your daughter's and your anxiety around men come from bad past experiences? I don't think you're obligated to make the room available to anyone who wants it, but I am wondering why you would form a long-term relationship with someone with teenage boys in the first place if you were going to treat them as legitimate threats. Yes. I don't think you should be dating a man with 2 teenage sons. It's not healthy for you or your daughter to be in a situation where you're constantly looking over your own shoulders in your own home because of anxieties. It's also not fair to your partner or his kids to have a partner/potential step-parent who's constantly suspicious of them. And that's it for this video, guys. If you have thoughts to share, leave a comment below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you like this content. I'll catch you in the next one. Good day, everyone.